Hi, this is Tim, my husband for 27 years now. He's quite an outdoorsman. He loves gardening, growing citrus and watermelon, hunting, fishing, trapping, and running his dogs. He also enjoys sharing the fruits of his labor with his family, friends, and his neighbors. We live down on the Delta in the North Santee community. These are aerial views that show our home property lines, our shared fire lanes, Powell Road 17 and Mount Zion, as well as the gates to the plantation where Tim helps trap predators by request, and the site where the near fatal wreck took place, as well as two key flood zones that can landlock us on Powell Road when the water gets high. Here's the path from the house to the first gate. Here's a view from my driveway of the bridge that becomes unpassable during flooding, with pictures of what it looks like when the road is flooded here in October 2024. You can see the road is unpassable and closed. Leaving the south gate, you pass the water tower and corner loop, the lowest point on Powell Road, rendering it closed and unpassable during flooding. As you can see in the public protest in these pictures by our local councilman in October of 2024, neither the bridge nor corner loop were closed or unpassable in this December 23 event, or when my husband took the trip to the plantation. What does he do? He traps, removes, and relocates dangerous nuisance predators. Here are the sets he made on December 11th, 2023, where he caught a coyote on December 14th, 2023. Right out in the open, on the main road, from the main gate leading to the house where Mrs. Butler lives there with her cats. So we've established the landlocked situation we have when the roads are closed and flooded. Traveling from my driveway to the south gate, through Corner Loop, through Mount Zion Road, he enters the north gate where he arrives at the quail fields and the duck ponds and roads built over ditches filled with plastic pipes and covered with sand. These don't need flood waters to collapse. In fact, if it had been inspected before my husband got there, someone else would have been airlifted to the trauma center, or preventive maintenance would have taken place, and someone would have put up the road closed gates and stops. As you'll see in these pictures, that was done after the fact. There is no doubt that we had heavy rain that Saturday night, but it did not close the bridge, it did not close the roads, nor did it create a muddy mess entering the plantation roads. Everything was high and dry. This is not an act of God, as people consider weather events. God does not build roads of plastic pipes in ditches and cover them with sand and call them roadways or safe. And this is the common practice at the plantation. In fact, Tim even helped Stan find a man to fix these problems. But when the evaluation was made, they said we didn't want to spend the money. If this road had been inspected right here and now, and as you can see, the water is very, very low. The flooding took place several days ago. If someone else had drove across that road and inspected it, they would have been flown to the trauma center, not my husband. Here's where Stan contacted me very kindly, such a good neighbor. At 4 o'clock on December the 18th, 8 hours after my husband entered to check a trap that usually takes about an hour at the most if he has a predator. Here are pictures from the nurse at the level 1 trauma center that he was medevaced to. They told me not to come until they had him stabilized because he was going to require CAT scans around the clock until they could determine the extent of his damages, whether he was going to live or die or had a brain injury or whatever the condition was. So I didn't get to see him for the first 24 hours. Are you telling me that this is the price he pays for rendering expert services for free upon request with written permission as provided by law to keep good rapport with our neighbors with whom we share a wildfire boundary? Isn't this why insurance is mandatory, especially for big LLCs? If the shoe were on the other foot and Tim damaged their property while helping the neighbor, whether he's getting paid for it or not, would he not be responsible and liable for the damages? Sure he would. He doesn't even drive on the roads when they're muddy. You know why? Because he knows the cost and the labor and the maintenance of having to build and maintain a road, a proper road, not one filled with plastic pipes and covered with sand. Now, Tim was not a youthful man with an undamaged body. He was about to turn 70 in December. He had already had back surgery, but he could still hunt and fish and trap and garden and cut his grass and help around the house. And even though these things may be recreation for some people, we ate what we grew. Today, Tim can still feed his dogs and listen to them run. But most days, he gets dizzy, he has headaches, he has memory loss, eye problems, and balance problems. He's falling all the time. His neck, his back, and his head, his body are beaten, bruised, and scarred in ways that even modern technology cannot repair. Like the 8 airbags deployed on the Toyota Tundra. He is totaled also.